Joining us right now, GOP political strategist, co-founder, mustreadtexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Good morning. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Appreciate you coming on today. Let's start off with the now speaker's race. McCarthy looked as though he had it in the bag, and he may still. But we have a new entrant into the speaker's race, correct?
Yeah, we do. Jason Chaffetz, who's I think third or fourth term member from Utah. He is the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee chairman. He chaired the hearing that had Cecile Richards, the president of Planned Parenthood, last week. Yeah, what's interesting here is that on Thursday, a majority of the House Republican Conference, the members of the House body, a majority of them, only 125, will choose the Republican for Speaker, and that will be McCarthy. He easily has 125 votes. He probably has 190 or 200. But when Boehner resigns at the end of October, the full House has to elect the Speaker. And so for that to happen, you have to get 218 votes. There are something like 240 Republicans in Congress, and so McCarthy, if he's the Republican choice, will have to lose no more than 22 Republicans, and there's 40 members of the House Freedom Caucus who could very well choose not to support him. So the House has to have a speaker, but you have to have someone who can get 218 votes. It's not clear at this moment that McCarthy will be able to do that. If he doesn't, then it's possible that the House will go into chaos, and I think that's where Chaffetz thinks he can make his play. That would be the unifying fallback candidate if McCarthy can't get to 218 votes. I generally think this won't happen. I think McCarthy will eke it out and barely get the votes he needs, but there's a little bit of uncertainty right now.
That's interesting. Is Chaffetz when he's looked at? I know he's considered maybe a little bit more conservative than McCarthy, but is he someone who even your more moderate Republicans could get behind?
It's a good question. He's a committee chairman, and so that generally means that he works with leadership. He has probably, generally supported what leadership wants, whether it's, rule votes on the floor or major bills. But you're right. I mean, he is seen as being a little bit more conservative. Now, he did strip Mark Meadows of his subcommittee chairmanship for a few days, a few months ago, which is something conservatives remember. And so that's something he's going to have to explain. And there's a couple other things in his past he has to explain as well. I think at one time he was a Democrat. He might have even worked for Dukakis in '88 or helped his campaign in some way. But we'll see. Look, I don't think Chaffetz has broad enough support. I think if McCarthy were not able to get 218 votes, you might see a stronger conservative candidate step forward, someone like Jim Jordan of Ohio or even Jeb Hensling of Texas. But so far, those two people have said they're not interested. And so this job of Speaker, Chad, what's interesting about this is I think it's a job no one wants. No one but Kevin McCarthy wants. You're traveling constantly. Every weekend you're gone raising money for the party or for other members. You get, virtually no thanks. And you have to deal with the challenge of keeping your conservative right wing on board so you can pass bills without needing Democratic votes. And then you have to do that in the context of a Senate where Republicans can't really do much because they can't get 60 votes on anything. So it's a very tough thing. You have to be able to look forward, though. Look, it's about putting a vision forward for what Republicans stand for. The House should be passing bills anyway, even if they can't move forward in the Senate. They should be passing major legislation. Let the Senate either take it up or not, but put a marker out there for what we stand for on energy, on tax reform, on Obamacare replacement, on a number of these issues. So far, they haven't done that.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of voters out there have been very unhappy about, especially with Boehner. And what seemed to do Boehner in was his, I don't want to say hatred, but his disapproval maybe of conservatives and not even wanting to hear from them, not letting them have a seat at the table. From what it sounds like, McCarthy would be a little bit different. He would at least give conservatives a seat at the table and hear their ideas.
I think that's right. Kevin is not a deeply ideological person. He is much more of sort of a behind-the-scenes, sort of backroom political tactician. He wants to do what's successful. He wants to do what is smart and strategic. And he's very much a consensus builder. I know that's a term that's used a lot in politics, but it's very, very real as it relates to McCarthy. He doesn't have a lot of strong opinions himself. He likes to have the team bring all their ideas forward and then, have pick one path and everybody move forward together. But look, his rise, he was elected in 2006. He was started as a member of House Republican leadership in 2009. His entire rise is built on his relationships. He was the person who recruited a number of candidates for, I think, 4 years as part of Young Guns through the NRCC to run for Congress. He's someone who constantly is talking to members. There was a profile of him in the LA Times a few years ago that talked about how he flies back to Bakersfield every weekend, and when he has to fly to LAX, it's like a 2 or 2.5 hour drive to Bakersfield. He's on his phone calling members that entire drive to and from the airport, 5 hours every single week, just checking in, seeing what they want, what they're frustrated about. So that is at its core the reason why he's likely to now become probably the least experienced Speaker of the House in modern history.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, co-founder, mustreadtexas.com. There are some reports that Joe Biden may decide this week whether or not he'll jump into the race. Just from what you're hearing, what you're seeing, maybe gut feeling, what do you think Joe Biden does?
Yeah, there's been two reports in the last 3 days that have said that. CBS News had a report, their White House reporter Juliana Goldman on Saturday, saying that Biden was expected to make a decision in the next 7 to 10 days, and that was based on 3 sources that are close to Biden. And then Mike Allen in Politico this morning also reported that he thinks that he's got sources saying Biden will decide, perhaps make his decision this weekend and announce it as early as Monday, or perhaps after the Democratic debate a week from Tuesday. Look, there's sort of 2 pieces of information here that conflict. To me, my gut tells me he runs. I think he realizes Hillary has a real problem, and he realizes Sanders can't be the nominee because he's not electable. And so he probably feels like he can run that middle path. And for someone who's run for president twice before, and he sits 20 feet from the Oval Office for the last 6 or 7 years, I'm sure now he thinks he really should be, and then he has a path to do it. And if you've run twice before, why not run a third time? The piece of evidence on the other side is that I still think Hillary's tough to beat for the nomination. She's already got 20 or 25% of the superdelegates. She's got a huge organization in the field, but also huge financial resources. And there's just too much, I think, inertia behind Hillary that it's going to be very difficult. And Biden has continued to delay the decision, right? And usually when you delay a decision, it's because you don't want to make that decision. Yeah. And so for Biden, I think that could be the telling thing, that the fact that he's continued to delay this decision shows that he knows he shouldn't do it, and that ultimately he won't. But I think he will, because he's run twice before, and having been vice president for 6 or 7 years, I think he feels like he's prepared to do the job.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, what can people find on mustreadtexas.com this week?
Yeah, putting obviously more news up about Cruz from over the weekend, including I had a column in the Austin American Statesman about his path forward. So you can find news about Cruz up there, and all the other Texas political news and opinion. Find it all at one place, mustreadtexas.com.
All right. As always, Matt, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, you too. That's Matt Mackowiak. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak. Lots of good political news there on Twitter.